Hello, everyone, and welcome to my podcast, Music, Facts, and Figures by Mark Inesito. I am Mark Inesito, and today's podcast is not going to be about music. It's going to be about sports. I was inspired to do this last month, actually, uh, due to a couple of reasons. I'll tell you why as we go along here. It's one of the first things I want to talk about in this podcast. Um, so it's going to be about sports today, not music. So the next podcast for sure music. I guarantee it. And I hope it's going to be I made a promise I would do a podcast of better editing techniques, and I hope to do that next time around. And it may take about 2 or 3 weeks for sure. A few weeks the most, 2 weeks, at least. But I got to do a PowerPoint, and I got to figure out like how I'm going to film it. As I mentioned, I was taking an editing class last semester in school, and I like to try some editing techniques to my podcast. That way, you're not seeing my straight face like this today. So my last two podcasts were not on YouTube. They were only audio. And they both were not on music. I did one in October about Stanley Hotel. My wife and I went there for our anniversary, 10-year anniversary last summer. And talking about that time, the first time I was there, which was 10 years ago, actually, believe it or not. And being sensitive spirits that I am, I experienced some stuff the first time. Last year, I did not really experience nothing that I noticed. However, there was a moment where I felt like I was being watched at one point when I was walking the hallways. So maybe there was some there, but not enough to say, okay, I didn't see it, but I could sense it. So who knows, right? So yeah, today's it's gonna be about this general sports talk. That's all. Like pretty much what I like in sports and everything, and just in general, like my memories of going to like games and stuff and all that stuff. Not really about stats per se. I'm not talking about stats and all that, but I'm just talking about general like basketball, baseball, hockey, football. The teams I like and all that. So, and this other things. I got things to show off too. I'm not trying to brag about it, but some souvenirs I collected throughout the years that I want to show off in this podcast. Hold on a second here. I lost my train of thought. Okay. Yeah. So that's basically about it. For this podcast. Speaking of sports, got my NASCAR shirt on. NASCAR today. I love NASCAR. Joy Logano. I'm also a fan of Ross Chastain. My wife is a fan of Ross. So good luck, Joey. Good luck, Ross. Good luck, whoever wins, today's race in Atlanta. So yeah, so I did two podcasts. Last two podcasts I did were not were only audio. The first I mentioned was Stanley Hotel in October, and then literally I recorded one on Christmas Day, and it was like a short 15-minute or so one. Just a touch base with everybody, like where I'm at. And as you know, I'm currently a part-time student in college, and it's not easy getting a podcast every week like I want. However, I'm skipping a semester, holding out a semester for spring. I hope to go back for summer, if not for sure next autumn. That's my goal. But yeah, I'm holding out a semester, and just I got more time to do a podcast each week, but I want to because I want to do this new editing technique with my podcast if I can. It's going to be a while to get it up next time. So I got my PowerPoint to finish up, which I started initially, but didn't finish it yet. So I got another podcast I was working on in between, the Stanley Hotel, my other podcast about miscellaneous stuff, like what's going on in my life at the moment. It was a very challenging last few months for me, and which is the reason why I'm holding out a semester for. Nothing bad happened. Just I got into had a $1,000 car, $2,000 car repair that had to be done, and it kind of set us in the mind for Christmas. And I just a lot of things happen, and I think I got to hold out semester. I can't go this semester. I mean, summer, if not for sure, fall next year. Stick to it. Keep that dream going. It's my dream. It's not a dream. It's my goal. I mean, it's something I'm doing. It's something that I want to do. So, you know. So yeah, it's been a challenge. But nothing serious happened. I didn't get into no accident. It was just some car repairs that had to be done, and you know. But anyway, that's about it. So let's. If you like this podcast, please follow me on YouTube, and for audio, follow me on Spotify, iHeartRadio, uh, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts, to name a few. And I appreciate for you guys bearing with me and tuning in and supporting me. And if you like my YouTube channel, please hit the subscribe button and please follow me. I appreciate it. If you like it, no pressure. Okay. So what inspired me to do the sports podcast is a month ago, being from Colorado. I love in each sport, I love each team in Colorado. I love, the Denver Broncos, win or lose, the Colorado Rockies, win or lose, the Denver Nuggets, win or lose, which are world champions and hope they repeat this year, and the Avalanche, which are doing pretty good and hope they go back to the Stanley Cup. And then 2 years ago, they were champions. I was not forced to like those teams. It was my choice. But in each sport, there are two of the teams I like. But the first teams are always my supporting teams: the Broncos, Nuggets, Avalanche, and Rockies. So if my two of the teams are playing against each of these teams, I'm always rooting for the Broncos. So football, I like the Broncos, Steelers, and Packers. So with the Broncos and Packers, go Broncos. Broncos and Steelers, go Broncos. Now Packers and Steelers, I'm going to say go Packers. I think I like the Packers at a close second. My dad, being from a native of Colorado, God bless his soul here. He became a Steeler fan in the 70s. I think what made him become a Steeler fan was those of you that know the history of the Pittsburgh Steelers probably remember a game between the Raiders and the Steelers in 72, I believe it was. It was a playoff game. I saw highlights of the game, and I think the full game is online on YouTube, if I'm right. I know the famous play of that game is on YouTube for sure. The last play of the game, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about if you know your history of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Again, it was a game between the Raiders and Steelers in Pittsburgh. Very boring game. Very boring game. This last play, bam, woke everybody up. The famous immaculate reception. Terry Bradshaw threw the pass to the intended receiver, was deflected. Franco Harris got it, ran it for a touchdown. And I think with the Steelers beating the Raiders, who are a rival of the Broncos, early my dad became a Steeler fan. And my stepmom is also a Steeler fan. So I think out of respect for that, he was a Steeler fan. And I kind of grew up liking the Steelers too a little. I like their history, and I like, their just like them. And the Packers have a good history as well. I got a friend of mine. Well, a friend of my dad's actually a retired Denver sheriff who worked with my dad. She's from Wisconsin originally, from Sheboygan. And she actually was at the Ice Bowl, if you know about that game. It was a 1967 playoff game, NFL championship game between the Packers and the Cowboys. And it was like minus 15 degrees in Green Bay. And she was there. And remember the last play of the game, another great game. Packers won the game by a Bart Starr touchdown. And it was like called the Ice Bowl. Well, she was there, and that was a pretty good game to experience. Cold as fuck, probably, but probably an awesome game to experience. So that's why I like the Packers too. I think their history. I think I always had an appreciation for them, and I kind of from there became a Packer fan. But overall, it's the Broncos, win or lose. Now the Broncos, those of you who like the Broncos, are with me on the same page. I'm sure we need a quarterback. Peyton Manning retired. I don't think Russell Wilson's the answer. Is he the complete problem? No, he's not. But he's not as good as he intended to be. I even knew that too when he was in Seattle still. Like the last couple of years, I would see him play. It's like I'm not impressed with his play. I was scared when he came here. I had my doubts, but I had confidence too. Like, okay, maybe he can do something. and he really hasn't proved it for me. So, I really want to see, if I see a veteran quarterback come to Denver, I want to see Baker Mayfield come here by far. I'd love to see him here. I would love to see him. Now I want to talk about, so go back again. I just want to explain why I like 3 teams in each sport for. Like basketball was not really it was my choice. Hockey was my choice, and baseball was my choice. So what inspired me to do this podcast now, I'm gonna go on topic now, was last month the Colorado Rockies inducted a Hall of Famer into the Hall of Fame, a player in the Hall of Fame, a second Rocky to be in the Hall of Fame. The first one was a free agent. He was with the Montreal Expos, who are now the Washington Senators, I believe. They were the Expos throughout the 80s and 90s, even the 70s for that matter. Maybe I think they moved to Washington, became the Senators. But his name is Larry Walker. He came to Colorado in the 90s. Won MVP one year. I remember that. Playing to say that was awesome. Elected the Hall of Fame, I believe it was in 2019, 18. I don't remember. But he was elected to the Hall. He was the first Rocky to be elected to the Hall of Fame. So a month ago, they did a Hall of Fame announcement. Todd Helton, our first baseman we had, he played here for 17 years, wore number 17. His whole career, he was a Rocky. Great player, deserved it by far. Congratulations, Todd. You deserve this. People think that he's not a great player, but if you look at his stats, he really is, if you think about it. And I heard some sports talk on the radio that they think, oh, maybe he's not that good enough. I saw him play, and believe me, I think he was excellent, and he deserved it by far. And there's those East Coast biased sports writers who say, oh, he doesn't deserve it. Colorado sports is, a bust. We always get Colorado sports. I felt like always got disrespected, and it's by the East Coast ESPN sports writers. Even though one of my favorite sports writers is from the East Coast, I like him. Do I believe what he says all the time? No, I don't. But I like some of the stuff he talks about, and that's Stephen A. Smith. I respect him 100%. Now, I'm not going to quote this because I'm not certain of the story, but a sports talk show in Denver here, on our local sports station, talked about Todd Helton's stats. And it was a show called The Drive, an afternoon show, a weekday afternoon show between 2:00 p.m. to 5 p.m. No, 6 p.m. Excuse me. Monday through Friday. It's hosted by a guy named Zach By and another guy who played for the Broncos for a year or two. It's a native of Colorado, actually. He doesn't play ball anymore. I think he had an injury that plagued him. But great player, I thought. Played for CU, University of Colorado. Like I said, he grew up in Colorado, went to high school in Colorado. His name is Philip Lindsay. He's also the host of this radio show. I think it was Zach By that said it. I'm not sure. Quote me if Zach, if you're by chance listening to this, don't quote me. I swear I heard this. I swore I heard you say this. I'm just going to repeat it. But I think he said something like Todd Helton's road record was better than his home record. So you can't really blame the altitude in Denver, in Colorado, for Todd Helton's stats. So think about it. Congrats, Todd. You deserve that by far. This past month, earlier, before the Super Bowl, actually, 2 weeks ago, a Denver Bronco was elected to the Hall of Fame, finally, after all these years. Randy Gradishar, part of the original Orange Crush from 1977. That's the year I was born. Long-awaited, well-deserved Hall of Famer, finally. Randy Gradishar. Congrats, Randy. You deserved it by far. Again, a lot of East Coast writers are going to say, he doesn't deserve it, blah, 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 blah. I don't want to hear it. He deserves it by far. I swear I saw some Facebook comments about Todd Helton, going back to Todd Helton's Hall of Fame induction. People said, well, if Todd Helton's in the Hall of Fame, Pete Rose deserves it. By far, Pete Rose does deserve the Hall of Fame, despite what he did wrong. He knew he did wrong. He knew damn well he did wrong. But I believe in forgiving and forgetting, and I think he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame too. That's my opinion, and I'm sticking to it. But congrats, Todd Helton of the Colorado Rockies, and congrats, Randy Granishar of the Denver Broncos. Both players played for each of their teams throughout their career. Yeah, and they love the game too, by far. Okay, I want to start with basketball here. My teams in basketball are the Denver Nuggets, obviously, Chicago Bulls, and Boston Celtics. Growing up in the 80s, I had a passion for our Nuggets. We had fairly solid teams back then. You know, we had players like Danny Shays, Michael Adams, Alex English. You know, these were solid players, I thought. And I think we made the playoffs a few times, but didn't really, you know, we always lost in the rounds, in the playoffs. They were very solid. Yeah, we had a pretty solid coach named Doug Moe. I liked him a lot. You can see how much I want to say about that. But I think the Nuggets were always had a fairly solid team. I think right now their team right now is top notch, if you ask me. With Jokic, Jamal Murray, Aaron Gordon. Yeah. My first professional sporting event was a Nuggets game at the old Nichols Arena. If I'm Denver, you know what I'm talking about by that. And I think it was a game between I think it was against the Dallas Mavericks, if I'm right. It was in 1988. I think it was like, I think I remember the date too. It was literally 2 days before Christmas. So December 23rd, 1988. My first professional sporting event, a Nuggets game. That was fun to watch. My last Nuggets game was a couple years ago with my wife. We went like maybe more than a couple years ago, 2015. I want to say 16. No, 2014. 2014. I remember that. Yeah, we had pretty good seats for that game. We I don't remember who it was against, but I think they won too, so that was pretty good. But yeah, I actually went to a Nuggets game in 2003 with an ex-girlfriend of mine. Sorry, Stacy, my wife. But we had pretty good seats for that game too. We sat like literally behind the hoop, behind the bat in the net, actually. I remember there was a moment they were playing a song. It was like a timeout call, and they're playing a song, and they people were like dancing and stuff. And I got up and started dancing, not really knowing about it. There was a camera on me as I was dancing, and this girl I was with at the time was laughing. I'm like, "So funny." It's like pointing at the screen on top. I'm like, "That's not me." It's like, "Yes, it is." I'm like, "Oh shoot!" I saw her on the big screen. I'm like, "Oh great!" So I sat down real fast. I'm like, "Nope, I'm done." So that was kind of fun in a way, being on the screen, acting like a fool. But I think, like I said, I think this Nuggets team we had last year, are top notch. I hope we repeat. I don't think we have the same like confidence we had last year because of injuries and of course trades and stuff. So I think if we focus, I know you can't win every game, and I understand that 100%. But I hope we can repeat. I want to see a repeat happen. Can we do it? Yes, we can. And I believe Jokic is going to be the MVP. I hope. A solid player. Baseball. I always loved baseball. As a kid, we never had a professional team in Colorado until '93. So my teams in baseball, I told you, the Rockies is 1. Number 2 is the New York Yankees, and 3 is the Chicago Cubs. So my first Rockets game was the inaugural season. I remember that, playing as my dad and I went to it. My mom didn't want to go, so we got 2 tickets for it. But I remember sitting there. My dad had to go to the restroom or something, or getting something at the concessions. I sat in my seat, just looking around the stadium, thinking, finally, professional baseball. I mean, it's so historic. Every sports is historic to it. It's but some about baseball, that's America's pastime. They call it. I truly believe it is America's pastime, and just sitting there experiencing that stadium and that day was like, this is awesome. um, I remember who it was against. I think it was against the team that was the Expos that became the uh, Washington Senators, and the Rockies won. I remember that was a fun experience. Before we had the Rockies, we had a minor league team called the Denver Zephyrs. We had a team called the Denver Bears initially, which were the farm team for the Expos. Then I think they expanded or they became the Zephyrs. I can't remember. I mean, the Zephyrs were the farm team for the Brewers. And I believe the Zephyrs moved to New Orleans, if I'm right. I don't know, they're even still there for that matter. But I think the last year they were in Denver, they won the minor league World Series. That was pretty awesome. I remember as a kid going to old Zephyrs games at the old Mile High Stadium, and they were fun to watch. I remember one game I went to, we were sitting along the third baseline, and at the time the mayor of Colorado from Denver was there, and that was pretty cool. That was almost an honor for me because I was a kid, and now if I see a mayor of Colorado, I'm like, oh, cool, awesome. But as a kid, it was a big deal. I'm like, that's the mayor of Denver, sitting 2 rows in front of us. And at the time, the mayor was Federico Pena, if you know who I'm talking about. If you're from Denver, you know who I mean. But he was sitting literally 2 rows in front of me, him and his wife. So as a kid, I thought that was pretty cool. But I actually love old firework games. And I really had a passion for that. Like, we would go to old Denver games and there would be like a fireworks show afterwards. Sitting there and just watching fireworks. That was pretty cool to watch. But yeah, I remember that was before we had the Rockies. Then the Rockies came in '93, and that's when I went to my first game, and I went to my second game that same year. I believe it was against the Mets. The second game I went to of the Rockies, and I think what happened in that game that was historical in a lot of ways because I think it was because of the hype of having a team in Colorado finally. We broke a record for attendance, and that was that exact game I went to. That was part of that history of the Rockies breaking the record of the attendance. That was kind of honored me in there for that. And this was at the old Mile High Stadium still. I think it was like they were there for like 2 years until Coors Field was finally finished and built. I've been to a few games before at Coors Field. I love going to night games. They're fun. Some bottom that's fun. I went to one night game. We sat literally center field. I remember the Rockies hit a home run in that game, and it was literally coming in our section. And I'm like, here we go. I'm like trying to watch the ball. I'm like, where's the ball at? Where's the ball at? Oh, luckily hit me right in the freaking head. I'm like, I can't see it. I saw it finally land. It was a couple of rows in front of us. Thank God it wasn't me, but yeah, that was kind of like, I can't see the ball. Where is it? Where is it? Boink. Right there. There it is. Okay. The last baseball game I went to was actually in Arizona 2 years ago. Spring training to be exact. That was fun to go to. It was against the Cubs and Padres. So initially, my wife and I went to Arizona to visit her sister who lives in Scottsdale. I love Arizona. I want to move there. And if I had the money for it, I would love to have a house and like a winter house in Arizona and a summer house in Minnesota. That's me. We were going to go to a Rockies game, actually, but they were too expensive. So we trying to find what was cheaper, So we went to a Cubs game, and I'm like, oh, awesome! I'm a Cubs fan too, so that's a bonus for me. It was a Cubs and Padres. It was 2 years ago. It was a spring training game. That was kind of fun seeing that in the spring training field because I always wanted to go to a spring training game, whether it be in Florida, or Arizona. So it's pretty cool to see that. And literally, someone caught a ball and a couple of rows in front of me, and not being as packed as Coors Field was in that one game where I was sitting in center field. I was sitting along first baseline, and the ball literally went foul when the crowd literally 2 rows in front of me. It wasn't a packed crowd, so I could literally see the ball. I'm like, oh, she's gonna get it. She got it. It was some lady a couple rows like I said in front of us. So that was I think spring training baseball is always fun to watch. So moving on. Next sport. Hockey. I never really watched hockey as a kid, even though I would love to, but I never saw it on TV till I was in high school. ESPN was finally carry games, and I'm like, finally. And when I saw it for the first time on TV, I was hooked. And the Avalanche became a new team. We're an inaugural year. They weren't actually a new team in general. They were a team previously in Quebec called Quebec Nordiques, and they came to Colorado in '95. And that was actually a great season for the Avalanche. That was the first championship Denver got. Colorado ever got. It was the Avalanche beating the Florida Panthers in the Stanley Cup. And our last game against the Panthers went to 3 overtimes. I remember that. I'm like, God, 0-0. Finally, one of our players, boom, goal, finally won. I'm like, yeah, I was excited. Our first championship in Denver. Finally, the Colorado Avalanche finally did something for us. I went to a few games that first season. The first game I went to was actually, if you know your history of hockey, it was Patrick Wall's first game as an Avalanche. So, and we sat behind, kind of like maybe like behind the left side of the goal or right side, depending on where you're looking. Probably right side per se, because no left. I don't know, left side. Um, like like I'm trying to remember this kind of thing. So, well, depending on where you're looking at, and then like if you're the goalie, you're like your left hand is literally on the side I was sitting on. Oh no, the right side, the right side. My bad. I can't remember now. I'm just trying to picture it because I remember being in that game and being Patrick Wall's first game, but I'm trying to remember. I'm almost picture where I sat at. So I'm not saying it's behind his right shoulder, over there on top. It's kind of cool to see. Wall, and we won the first game. Uh, that was pretty cool experience. Uh, my mom passed away in '98, and my dad and I went to a game. I think it was in 90, it was a '98-'99 season. We went to a Avalanche game, and we sat ringside, and we heard this loud boo, boo, in the crowd, and it was like random. I'm like, what's going on? I mean, we're looking in the direction where it's coming from, and there was 2 guys walking up the steps. Can't tell who it was. And this was the day before the Broncos were playing the Jets in the AFC Championship. It was Elway's last game in Denver, which the Broncos won, and advanced Super Bowl 33 against the Falcons and won. The 2 guys walking up the steps was the quarterback from the Jets at that time, Vinny Testaverde, and the receiver, which I can't remember his name. So that was kind of cool in a way, seeing them from a distance. But yeah, I think the Avalanche are pretty solid as well this year. I think they have a good chance getting the cup again. I think McKinnon's going to be MVP. I hope he does get it. He's very humble of a player, you know, and I love him for that. I love people who are humble, you know. I mean, play to win, but be humble as well, you know. Football, well, we'll go back to hockey. I want to mention my teams in hockey. The Avalanche, of course. Number 2, well, it doesn't matter. I'm going to say whatever. The Chicago Blackhawks and the Montreal Canadiens are my 3 teams in hockey. Football, again, my teams are the Broncos, Steelers, and Packers. The Broncos need help big time. I remember my first ball game. It was actually in 1989. at the old Mile High Stadium. We sat in the old South stands in that game. Those of you who are from Denver, who has been in the old Mile High Stadium, know what I'm talking about when I say South stands. The loudest stands in the stadium, possibly. And it was against the Seattle Seahawks. It was when Seattle was still in the AFC West. And this is when the Broncos went to the Super Bowl that year and lost to the 49ers. I was pretty honored to see that because that game, those of you who are Seahawks fans know your history. Steve Largent, wide receiver for the Seahawks, announced his retirement at that game. Kind of right there too by the end zone, by the South Stands end zone. So it was kind of cool seeing him announce it right there. Steve Largent, Hall of Famer, by far. So that was my first game I went to, was against the Seahawks. The Broncos won. I remember the score was 41-14. That's it. The next game I went to was a game 2 years later in '91. And that was a pretty awesome experience. I'll explain it to you right now. At the time, this is when AFC was playing on NBC and NFC was playing on CBS. And if you're an NFC team and you were playing in an AFC stadium, then you'd be on CBS. So this was against the Bears, an NFC team. So I was on CBS. My dad won tickets at a gas station in the contest. And well, at the time, the quarterback for the Bears was Jim Harbaugh. And again, CBS was doing the game. And my dad and I sat literally 2 rows in front of the Broncos bench. And what was cool about that in a number of ways was, one, there's John Elway warming up literally in front of me. John Elway, right there. Warming up, throwing his balls, doing whatever. Getting his arm ready. Like, this is awesome. Behind me, the booth where the announcers were at. If you know your history, and I keep saying that because I'm older than some people probably listen to this. And if you know your history and know who was on CBS at the time, the announcers that were there were legendary John Madden and Pat Summerall. There was John Madden literally interacting with the crowd. I'm like, John Madden! John Madden's right there. That was a big deal for me. I look back later on and I can see Pat Summerall. I'm like, that's Pat Summerall. Yeah. And I was actually on TV in one play. It was a play that when I think Elway scrambled for the ball and got a first down, and they're like, yeah, cheering, whatever, and that's pretty cool. I think that's another fun experience for that. If you know your history, I keep saying that because being older, if you know your Broncos history and you've been to a game, you might know one of the fanatics that go there. And they used to go there. He was a leprechaun kind of guy. But he kind of sat next to me and we started chit-chatting a little bit. It was pretty fun. So yeah. Again, the Broncos lost that game, but it's still a cool experience. I'm in a couple other games. Another game I want to mention was against the Patriots in 2005. And that was when Jake Plummer was a quarterback for the Broncos. And of course, Tom Brady was a quarterback for the Pats, and Bill Belichick was the coach. I'm with a friend of mine, and we sat literally like, this is in the newest stadium. Actually, in the new one that's currently up, that was built and that opened in 2001. This was literally like not too high, but probably like in the first like section of bleachers. Not like on the bottom, but like in that first like section. And like we were sitting like kind of like on the north end zone west side. So that was pretty cool. I mean, I'm not a Brady fan or Belichick fan, but it was still cool. Hey, they're playing awesome. And that was the same season we played them in the playoffs that year, and we won. And that was when a playoff game when Champ Bailey intercepted the pass meant for a touchdown. Then we went on to the AFC Championship and lost to Pittsburgh. So Pittsburgh won the Super Bowl against the Seahawks, 2005-2006 season. But the atmosphere of that game was awesome. I remember everybody was high-fiving each other. Like when we got there and we left, people were talking, interacting with us. It was awesome. Going back to history now with the Broncos, my dad actually went to a game with my aunt, my mom's sister. The South Stands, apparently, and it was a 77 AFC Championship game between the Raiders and the Broncos. The Broncos won, went on to Super Bowl 12, the first Super Bowl, and lost to the Cowboys. The Cowboys were the better team, honestly. And I'm not a Cowboy fan, but they were very dominant in those years. Staubach, a quarterback. They were a very dominant team, and their coach, Tom Landry, they had it all. A great defense, the Doomsday defense. We had a good defense too, the Orange Crush defense, but not as good as the Cowboys, apparently. There was one touchdown that I think we got hosed on. It was a Cowboys touchdown that Butch Johnson caught. I think they reviewed it, and it might have been. I don't know the whole deal of that review, but some people think that shouldn't have been a touchdown. Either way, it would have still lost. Didn't matter. We never know, but yeah, my dad and my mom's sister, my aunt was there at that 77 AFC Championship game between the Raiders and the Broncos. So that was a cool experience to see. First time making history, the first time doing this, winning. The first time a Denver professional team went to a championship game like that I know of. So that's all I have in each sport in general. I mean, there are many great games in the history of sports, and I think football has the most that I know of. I mean, I experienced great games of the Broncos. I can name you a number of great games. The drive in '86 against the Browns. That was great. Even the next year against the Browns, the AFC Championship game, the '87 AFC Championship game, we beat them again. The fumble, they call it. The Browns were close in the end zone driving. Fumbled the ball. We recovered it, went on to win, going to Super Bowl 22, and lost crazy to the Redskins, 42-10. Or now they're called the Commanders, but they were called the Redskins at that time. Those were great games. Super Bowl 25 was a great game. I mean, there's many Super Bowls I can say that are great. The Super Bowl 10 was great. Steelers and Cowboys, the famous catch that Lynn Swann made. I can name an AFC playoff game between the Colts and Raiders. The Raiders won the game. It was called Ghost to the Post, with Dave Casper catching that pass over his shoulder. I think that's what it was, if I'm right. I can't remember the exact play that it was referred to, but that was a great game, despite the Raiders winning. Another great game was in the early 70s between the Dolphins and the Chiefs. It was considered as the longest game ever. And I'm going to look it up right now as we talk. I'm going to explain to you how long that game was. So, the longest, it still holds the record as the longest game ever. Let's see here. How long was should have this prepared beforehand. The longest game in NFL history. This is from Professor Google. The longest game in NFL history took place on Christmas Day in 1971. The Miami Dolphins defeated the Kansas City Chiefs 27-24 in the AFC divisional game. The game lasted 82 minutes and 40 seconds. So, like in playtime, not like, because, obviously there's timeouts, commercials, and all that. But playtime, 82 minutes and 40 seconds. That's a long ass game. That great game. Dolphins won. That's a bonus. A great game. The greatest game I think ever is not one of the Bronco games, but it's it was a playoff game in '81 between the Dolphins and Chargers. Even though I wanted the Dolphins to win that game, they lost. But that game was so close and went to overtime. It was just an awesome game. It's on YouTube. I watched it and I thought, wow, amazing. It's crazy. Now I'm gonna look it up right now, the score box, and I'm gonna explain the score box to you, okay? Again, Chargers won in overtime, and I gotta give credit to Kellen Winslow, man. Um, he was playing with heat exhaustion. He had a pinched nerve. The guy played out like it was like it was his last game. Now, in my humble opinion, today a player will not do that. They're just gonna push out. I'm sorry to say that, but that's my honest opinion. So I'm gonna look it up right now. The score box for you of that game. Where's my internet now? Oh, there it is. I'm going too fast here because I'm kind of. Hey, you ready for the score box? 19. Dolphins Chargers score box. Here it is. They called it Epic in Miami. So the first quarter, San Diego 24, Miami 0. Halftime, San Diego 24, Miami 17. Um, the third quarter, it was uh sorry, it was tied 31. Again in the fourth quarter, 38-38 all. And overtime, Chargers win it by a field goal, 41-38. Brian Gumbel was at the game as a sideline commentator. He said in the game that if you don't think this game was great and you don't like football, and it was to me it was the greatest game ever. It is considered as one of the greatest games, and it wouldn't be considered as still as one of the greatest games, in my opinion. But to me, it was the greatest game I think ever. And I was like 4 at the time, so I was too young to have watched it or remembered it. So, I mean, by watching it on YouTube, and I think this game is awesome. At first, it was like kind of boring. It was like, well, this is a one-win game, but as you watch it, it's like, God, this is exciting, you know. 1958 championship game between the Colts and the Giants was awesome too. It was the first game to go in overtime. The Colts won. Johnny Unitas hand off to Alan Amici. So that was awesome to see that. Another great game the Broncos played was a playoff game between the Oilers, the old Houston Oilers, which are now the Tennessee Titans, and the Broncos. It was at the old Mile High Stadium, and it was a playoff game and it was a drive part two. It didn't go in overtime, but we won by a field goal. We won the field, won up by a field goal. And that was a fun day too. I remember playing this day when that game was going on. I was in the backyard. I tossed the ball around. I was gonna go inside and watch the game with my mom and dad. We had plans to go out for dinner that night, and I was in the backyard tossing the ball around, whatever. And I had a friend walk by my fence, and Mark, let's go to the park for a little bit. So we went to the park. I should have brought my radio listening to the game. I didn't bring my radio, so I went to the park with my friends, played catch for a little bit for an hour or two, came back, watched the ending of the game with my dad, the rest of the game with my dad and my mom, and watch that drive at the end of the game. Bam, boom, field goal by David Treadwell. That was a great game. And then the night we went out for dinner with my parents tonight, and then we went to a restaurant that was over there by the old, if you're from Denver, you know what I'm talking about. That was off of Sheridan over there by Sloan's Lake. And you can only see the old Mile High from there. and the lights were on out of the game. So I was like meeting my dinner, and I would look out the window. I'm like, well, that's cool. Kind of wish I was there, you know. Even Super Bowl 32 against the Packers and Broncos, the Broncos' first ever Super Bowl win. Finally, Elway got it. That was a great game. It went down the wire, and it was just my dad was so nervous, he had to leave the house for a minute. My mom and I are there watching it, cheering, yelling, screaming. We won it. Fireworks go off. People are yelling outside, honking their horns. My dad's honking his supposedly honking his horn when he was out and about. Came home. Great game. Great time too. I think the best Bronco team I think I experienced. I think each team that went to the Super Bowl were great. The best one I think we had was the 98 team when we played against the Falcons. Elway's last season. Terrell Davis, running back, got the MVP that year. That was, I think, the best year we had. Number 2 might be 97. Or I might be going on a limb and saying this, even though we went to the AFC Championship but lost. It was still a great season, I thought. 2005. But then we didn't go to the Super Bowl. I was talking about each Super Bowl team in general, not like each team that went to the playoffs. But I think as far as each team that went to the Super Bowl, the 98 team was the best that I experienced. Number 2, probably 97. 3, 86. 4, 87. 5, A9. And I wasn't born. No, probably 77. I don't know. Because I was born in 77, so I didn't really watch the 77 team except on film. They were pretty solid, so I would place them at a close third or even a fourth. So now I want to show off the souvenirs I got. This is going to be my last part of this podcast here. This is I used to collect cards, baseball, football, basketball, hockey. I like, $5 5 notebooks worth of cards as a kid growing up. So it was, I got rid of them. Unfortunately, I sold them. But yes, I had a good collection of cards. Now I have a couple of cards now. Not a whole lot, but this is a few of them I have in my collection currently. This guy became a Rocky. He played for the old Expos. This is his rookie card. Andres Galarraga. Let's see that. They call him the Big Cat. Great player. Is he? I'm not sure if he's a Hall of Famer or not. If he is, consider him as one of the first Rockies to be in the Hall of Fame. The glare is kind of bothering me. Here's a Cowboy. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the Cowboys were a very solid team in the 70s and 60s. And even in the 80s, for that matter, they had a very solid team. But I think when they won those Super Bowls in the 90s too, they were pretty solid, even though I wasn't a fan. But I liked their coach, Jimmy Johnson. I liked Troy Aikman. I liked Emmitt Smith. And I liked um Michael Irvin. That was about it. As well as a fan of the team in general. This is a Cowboy player, his rookie card from 77. $20 set. He came to the Broncos in 88. Wasn't very good with us. Another rookie card here. A guy, I don't know if he's in the Hall of Fame or not. He deserves it by far. Ryan Sandberg. Cubs. You can see that. This next card. So, if you know about the USFL League in football, it started, there was actually a USFL League in the 80s. And there was a team in Denver at the time called Denver Gold. They weren't that good, honestly. But there was a team called the Texas. Was it Texas? Or no, team called Showboat at the time. I think they were from Tennessee. I don't remember now. But this is a rookie card from the USFL back in the 80s. Reggie White, the Minister of Defense, licensed minister. Reggie White. He was a great player. Played for the Eagles and Packers in the NFL. Of course, I have this one. I remember I got this in '94 when he was still playing. I was 17. John Elway rookie. You can see that. It's giving me a bad glare. I don't like the glare it's giving me. Sucks. It's all right. Another rookie card here. Supposedly this is legit. It's signed too. It's called, I think it was through Topps Signature Rookies. And this is Terrell Davis. You can see the autograph. Played for the University of Georgia, one of my favorite schools. Hockey here now. Played for the Avalanche. This is him when he was with the Nordiques, which became the Avalanche. The rookie card, Joe Sakic. Great hockey player. This is not a rookie card, but this is a second-year card. Jim Brown, one of the greatest fullbacks ever. My mother grew up in Cleveland Heights to be exact. Had season tickets to the Browns, the Cleveland Browns season tickets. Grew up watching number 32, Jim Brown. A couple pictures here. This is one that's signed by Champ Bailey. Was a Redskin or Commander, whatever you want to call him, and a Bronco. Solid player. This player I like a lot. People don't like him. I thought he was good in his own way. I also like him because he's of his faith as well. I wish he was a bit more consistent, but when he was solid, believe me, in his own style. Tim Tebow. Old school baseball players here. Willie Mays. Roberto Clemente. Football now. Gale Sayers. And hockey, the Blackhawks player is Bobby Hull. I got some magazines in my collection too. This one's from 1946. It's a picture of Tom Harmon and his wife. From 1946, Sport magazine. Another Sport magazine. This is from 1947. Manager of, well, I can go back. I can go back to the 7-1. I like these ads in the back. This is for Prestone, as you can see. Yeah, they show that off too. The ads. Another Sport magazine. This is a picture of Brooklyn Dodgers manager Leo DeRosa, 1947. And the ad is PBR, Pabst Blue Ribbon. One of my greatest beers, I think. Another Sport magazine. This was the year the Colts again meet the Giants in the NFL championship. The first game to go in overtime. This on this cover is John Unitas from 1958. And this is the ad. Cigarette company, Lucky Strike, kind of struck the ad. And this one here, to me, it's always an honor to get. It's always a big deal. The Super Bowl Sports or Illustrated win, like the cover, because obviously each issue of Sports Illustrated, they're going to have the cover of the winning Super Bowl team. This was actually the first Super Bowl, right here from 66, January 28th. No, January 23rd, 1967. So, yeah. So this is, I got these pictures of magazine at a sports store called Beal Sports Collectibles. It's in Denver, Colorado. If you're a big sports memorabilia buff, if you're living in Denver and never been there before, or even want to visit Denver and love sports memorabilia, I recommend checking out Beal Sports Collectibles. It's over there on South Evans. I can't give you the exact address right now, but if you're ever in town, look it up. Beal Sports Collectibles. I had a friend of mine that gave me a few of these pictures, but I got some of these that Beal Sports Collectibles, and I even got these magazines there. And this is the very first Super Bowl, the Chiefs and Packers. Packers won 35-10. It's Max McGee. There's an ad for Marlboro cigarettes. Excuse me. This here was the first magazine I purchased at Beal Sports Collectibles. And I mean, this is the one I was in initially after. There was a couple other ones I saw that I really wanted, but they're expensive as heck. One was, to me, the greatest sports event ever, which was Miracle on Ice, 1980 U.S. Olympic team beating Russia in Lake Placid. And that was a game before the gold medal game. They went on to win the gold medal that year. That was pretty awesome. That one was there. Another one was there too. It was the Michael Jordan, James Worthy one when they won the NCAA championship in North Carolina. This is the one I was initially after. This is the first time I was at Beal Sports Collectibles. I'm there going through the magazines because there's a section in the back where magazines were there. They were in boxes and stuff, and they were in order by year, from oldest to newest, or most current, whatever, what they had in their collection. I wish I had it at the time, but never did. I feel dumb by not getting it. This is it was yeah. I'm there. I'm going through the boxes, and I picked one out. It was like a photograph of a baseball game. It was from the 50s, and it was a picture of Eddie Matthews, who played for the old Milwaukee Braves during the Hank Aaron years when he was there. Eddie Matthews, he was batting, and I'm going to show him batting the ball or something like that. And it was along third baseline. We can see the photograph being taken of it. It was Sports Illustrated. I'm holding it in my hand. At the time, not knowing it was the very first issue of Sports Illustrated. I'm like, what a freaking dumbass. I should have got it when I had a chance. But I didn't. I got this right here. November 8th, 1982. John Elway's first cover when he was with Stanford. Mom's away. The ad in the back for whiskey. Never heard of it before. I remember it though. I got some pictures here in the frame that I want to show off. This one here is outside. Muhammad Ali. I think I got that in Vegas one year. Hey, I'm in a hurry here. Running out of battery power. This one's signed by a Hall of Famer of the Broncos, Floyd Little. One of the great running backs we had. I remember when he went to Syracuse in college, and that was kind of crazy because they had three runners back to back to back that were amazing. Jim Brown, Ernie Holmes, and Floyd Little, back to back to back. So that was pretty cool for University of Syracuse. And this one here is autograph. One of my favorite players of all time. I never saw him play initially because I wasn't even born yet. I think he served in the Navy, if I'm right too, in World War II. Bob Feller, pitched for the Indians. But see him on film, and he was amazing. Autographed. I forget, supposedly it's legit. Bob Feller. Read what it says on there. And this last but not least, I got an autographed baseball, which I mentioned before in the podcast. This is actually the first a perfect game in the World Series, and it still holds today, that record. Don Larson, the Yankees. Autograph 2, and supposedly dated. I got it in Vegas one year. That's it. That's all I have for this podcast. But anyway, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate it. Thanks for bearing with me as well. And my next podcast will be about music for sure. I'm still in 1967 in my series. It's gonna be about the Monterey Pop Festival, which took place in June of '67. Anyway, I better hurry up and end this as soon as possible here. So bear with me. I'll be in a few weeks. I'm not gonna say when for sure. I said 3 weeks the most, so hopefully I do that. For now, take care of yourself. God bless. Enjoy your week and stay safe. And if you're liking me again, follow me on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button and follow me on apps such as iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Thank you. Have a great one, and goodbye.